Picture this: a bright, ordinary Glasgow afternoon on a quiet residential street. People are heading home, kids might be playing. Suddenly, the everyday calm is shattered. A 25-year-old man, Paul McDowall, is ambushed just yards from his own front door. But this wasn't some random street fight. No, this was a brutal, public execution carried out with chilling precision. Paul was stabbed and relentlessly beaten right there, in the open, in front of his own horrified neighbors. His murder wasn't a crime of passion. It was a cold, calculated message from the city's most feared and untouchable drug lord. But here's the thing that makes this story so unforgettable. Paul wasn't a rival gangster. He wasn't a threat. He was just an ordinary guy, a local lad, who was brutally sacrificed to terrify an entire community into absolute silence. The man who ordered his death, the infamous robber, the Birdman O'Hara, believed he was invincible. But in his arrogance, he made one colossal mistake. He fundamentally underestimated the strength and spirit of the very people he terrorized. This is the incredible, true story of how a community, pushed to the absolute edge, decided to do the unthinkable, to fight back, break the code of silence, and bring down a monstrous criminal empire. What does it take for ordinary people to stand up to a killer who seems more powerful than the law itself? Stick with me as we unravel this shocking case. And remember to hit the subscribe button and turn on notification so you don't miss any of our deep analysis on true and real crimes committed by the same people living amongst us. Now let's dive in. The rise of the Birdman. So, to truly grasp the sheer audacity of this crime, you have to understand the world that created the monster behind it. In the early 2000s, the streets of North Glasgow were a grim battlefield. Neighborhoods like Postle Park and Mary Hill, once proud working-class communities, were being systematically dismantled by a heroin epidemic. This wasn't just a drug problem. It was a full-blown crisis that brought with it abject poverty, desperation, and a level of violence that was both frequent and extreme. Every corner, every pub, every housing estate could be part of the territory in a brutal war over the lucrative drug trade. This was the stage where a young, ambitious, and utterly ruthless man named Robert O'Hara, known on the streets as the Birdman, would build his criminal empire. O'Hara wasn't born into a crime dynasty. He didn't inherit power. He started his career as a teenage housebreaker, learning the fundamentals of crime on the streets. But he was intelligent, observant, and a quick study in the dark arts of the underworld. He learned the single most important lesson of Glasgow's criminal landscape. Violence wasn't just a tool. It was the language of power. The more brutal you were, the faster you rose. He clawed his way up the ladder, leaving a trail of fear, bloodshed, and shattered lives in his wake. His reputation grew with every act of violence. He had already been on trial for murder not once, but twice, and had walked free both times. This didn't just make him seem lucky. It made him seem untouchable, as if the laws that govern normal men simply didn't apply to him. By his late 20s, O'Hara was the undisputed king of Postle Park, Saracen, and Mary Hill, running the areas with the iron fist of a tyrant. And his campaign of terror made him astonishingly rich. While the communities he controlled were collapsing under the weight of addiction and fear, O'Hara was living a life of obscene luxury. He flaunted his wealth, driving a top-of-the-range 65,000-pound Audi and residing in a lavish 400,000-pound penthouse apartment, a world away from the gritty streets that funded his lifestyle. His network of dealers, many of them terrified locals coerced into working for him, became a cash machine, bringing in an estimated £500,000 a year. His reputation was so fearsome that a wall of silence became the unwritten law of North Glasgow. Nobody saw anything, and nobody said anything, ever. He was more than a gangster. To the people living under his shadow, he was a plague on his own city. And his bottomless capacity for violence was about to spill over in the most public and tragic way imaginable. It's a classic story of a man becoming a monster to escape his circumstances, only to inflict worse suffering on the community he came from. What do you think creates a man like Robert O'Hara? Is it society, Or is it something twisted inside the individual? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. The murder of Paul McDowall. The fuse for this horrific murder was lit by a classic underworld conflict, a bitter feud over territory and respect. Robert O'Hara's total, suffocating control of the heroin trade in North Glasgow was being challenged by a rival drug gang. For a man like O'Hara, whose entire identity was built on dominance and fear, such a challenge could not go unanswered. But he didn't just want to hit back at his rival. He wanted to send a message so loud and so terrifying it would echo through every street in his territory. Paul McDowall, a 25-year-old from Postle Park, had the profound and terrible misfortune of being related to one of O'Hara's rivals. Paul wasn't a major player. He wasn't a threat. By all accounts, he was just a regular young man. But in O'Hara's cold and calculating mind, that made him the perfect target. He was a pawn to be publicly sacrificed, a symbol whose death would serve as the ultimate act of terror and reassert O'Hara's godlike dominance. On Thursday, July 22, 2004, Paul McDowall was walking just yards from his home on stony ground in Postle Park when he was ambushed. The attack happened in broad daylight, a deliberate and arrogant choice designed to maximize the psychological impact on the community. Two of O'Hara's loyal enforcers, armed with knives and batons, fell upon him. It was a frenzied, merciless, and brutally efficient assault. They beat and stabbed him repeatedly, a public slaughter that left no doubt about their lethal intention. In a chilling detail that emerged later, it was reported that one of the attackers was on the phone with O'Hara during the vicious assault, giving his boss a live, blow-by-blow account of the murder he had ordered. Paul McDowall died right there on the pavement, his life extinguished in a matter of moments. In the immediate aftermath, as if to put a final, chilling exclamation point on his message, O'Hara himself calmly arrived on the scene. He coolly surveyed the body of his victim, a final, cold-blooded display of absolute power and utter contempt. The murder didn't just send a shockwave through Postle Park. It was a psychic explosion of fear. This wasn't another gangland hit where one criminal kills another. This was the public execution of a local guy, someone people knew, to settle a score. The message was brutally loud and crystal clear. No one was safe. If you were connected to an enemy of the Birdman, even by blood, you could be next. At first, the monstrous tactic worked perfectly. That infamous wall of silence, so carefully constructed by O'Hara through years of intimidation, held stronger than ever. Witnesses were paralyzed with terror, fearing that they or their families would suffer the same fate as Paul. The fear was so real and so potent that two key witnesses had to be placed under 24-hour police protection, and another reportedly fled the country entirely, which shows you the paralyzing grip O'Hara had on the community. Imagine the terror of witnessing a murder and knowing that speaking up could be a death sentence for you or your family. It's an impossible choice. Share this video if you believe a story like this needs to be heard, a story about the true cost of gang violence on our communities, the investigation and a community's courage. The police investigation, codenamed Operation Gadget, was immediately faced with a monumental challenge. Detectives were almost certain from the first hour that Robert O'Hara was the architect of Paul McDowall's murder, but proving it was a completely different story. The wall of silence, built on years of terror, seemed unbreakable. In a brazen display of arrogance, believing he was above the law, O'Hara and his right-hand man, Robert Murray, even jetted off on a luxury trip to escape the heat. Their holiday was short-lived, however, as police intelligence was already zeroing in, and they were dramatically detained by armed officers upon their return to Glasgow Airport. It was a clear signal from the police, "We are coming for you." But something else was happening on the streets of Postle Park, something O'Hara had never anticipated. The sheer, naked brutality of Paul McDowall's murder had planted a seed of rebellion. The fear was still there, a cold and constant presence, but now it was mixed with a burning sense of outrage. The public execution of a well-liked local man with no real involvement in the gang world had fundamentally changed the dynamic. It was one thing for gangsters to kill each other, It was another to slaughter an innocent man on his own doorstep for sport. Quietly at first, in whispers behind closed doors, and then more boldly, people started talking. The very terror O'Hara had weaponized for years had finally pushed his community to a breaking point. They had simply had enough. This trickle of information was the break investigators so desperately needed. It allowed them to slowly and carefully begin building a case, not just for murder, but against O'Hara's entire criminal organization. They started to meticulously unravel his vast drug dealing and money laundering operations. A series of coordinated police raids on properties linked to the gang began to uncover the machinery of his empire. Critically, the investigation led to the first ever seizure of a MAC-11 submachine gun in Scotland. Finding a military-grade weapon like that was a terrifying sign of the level of violence O'Hara was prepared to unleash, elevating his operation from a street gang to a paramilitary-style criminal enterprise. One by one, the pieces of the puzzle started falling into place. The wall of silence began to crumble, brick by courageous brick. The bravery of ordinary people, neighbors, former associates, and residents who chose to stand up to a gangster they had every reason to fear, was beginning to dismantle the criminal empire that had held them hostage for so long. The Birdman's reign, which he had built on the silence of the terrified, was about to be brought crashing down by the voices of the brave. If you admire the incredible courage it took for this community to fight back, take a moment to hit that like button to show your support, and touch the subscribe button for more revealing contents like this. It's a testament to the power of ordinary people. The trial and the fall of an empire. In the spring of 2005, the stage was set for one of Glasgow's most significant and high-stakes gangland trials in a generation. The security risk was deemed so extreme, with fears of witness intimidation and jury tampering running rampant, that the proceedings were moved from Glasgow's High Court all the way to Dunfermline. This was an almost unprecedented step, taken to protect the jury and the handful of incredibly brave witnesses who were about to break the code of silence and testify against a man whose reach extended far beyond prison walls. The entire operation signaled just how dangerous and influential O'Hara was perceived to be. The trial lasted for 6 intense weeks, and the evidence presented was nothing short of explosive. One by one, former associates and members of O'Hara's inner circle took the stand, exposing the dark secrets of his criminal kingdom. They spoke of rampant industrial-scale heroin dealing, of money laundering schemes funneled through seemingly legitimate businesses like car washes, and of the casual, brutal, and often unpredictable violence O'Hara used to enforce his will. They painted a vivid picture of a paranoid, narcissistic, and controlling boss who demanded absolute loyalty and delivered savage punishment to anyone who dared to cross him. For the first time, the public and the jury heard exactly how the Birdman ruled his empire through fear. On May 5th, 2005, after deliberating over the mountain of evidence, the jury returned its verdict. Robert, the Birdman O'Hara, was found guilty of the murder of Paul McDowall. His key associates, Robert Murray and Colin McKay, were also convicted for their roles in the brutal killing. The judge, Lord Dawson, did not hold back in his sentencing. Looking directly at O'Hara, he branded him a despicable criminal and a blight on society who preyed on his own community. He sentenced O'Hara to life in prison, with a minimum tariff of 20 years before he could even be considered for parole. The Birdman was finally caged. But if you think the story ends there, you are mistaken. Prison walls, it turned out, were just a minor inconvenience for Robert O'Hara. In a truly shocking turn of events, it was discovered that from his prison cell, using a network of illegally smuggled mobile phones, he continued to run a massive drug trafficking operation between 2018 and 2021. He directed a sprawling criminal enterprise that funded an incredible life of luxury for his family on the outside. His partner and daughter lived in a stunning £635,000 apartment in one of Glasgow's most affluent areas. In an act of unbelievable audacity, O'Hara even tried to purchase a £225,000 Lamborghini from behind bars. When police raided his family's properties in 2021, they seized over £300,000 worth of high-value watches, designer clothes, and luxury cars, all bought with the proceeds of crime directed from a maximum security prison. In March 2025, while still serving his life sentence for murder, Robert O'Hara was handed an additional 9-year sentence for directing serious organized crime from his prison cell. This is truly mind-blowing. Does a life sentence really mean life? And how can our justice system allow a convicted murderer to continue running a multi-million-pound drug empire from prison? I want to hear your take on this shocking failure. Drop your opinion in the comments below. The case of Robert, the Birdman O'Hara, is a chilling, cautionary tale of power, cruelty, and the stubborn persistence of organized crime. It's the story of a man who built an empire on fear and genuinely believed he was above the law, a belief he held even after it had locked him away for life. The fact that he could continue his vast criminal enterprise for years from behind bars raises profound and deeply unsettling questions about the justice system's ability to truly stop men like him. It forces us to ask whether our prisons are merely warehouses for criminals or genuine institutions of justice and reform. But more than anything, this is the story of Paul McDowall, an innocent man whose senseless and brutal murder became an unexpected turning point. His death was an absolute tragedy, a life stolen for the sake of a gangster's ego. But it was not in vain. His killing lit a fire of defiance in a community that had been silenced by fear for far too long. It proved that even the most feared and seemingly invincible gangster is vulnerable, and that the collective courage of ordinary people can, in fact, topple an empire. The story of Postle Park's fight for justice is a powerful and enduring reminder that while monsters like the Birdman exist, so too does the quiet, unshakable bravery of those who refuse to live forever in their shadow. Paul McDowall's legacy is not that of a victim, but of the catalyst that brought a community together to reclaim its streets. If you found this story as compelling and important as we did, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the UK's most shocking crimes. And please share this video. The more people who hear about the courage of the Postle Park community, the more we affirm that a united voice is the most powerful weapon against fear. Thanks for watching.